Hello, and welcome to The Thin End of the Wedge, the podcast where experts from around the world share new and interesting stories about life in the ancient Middle East. My name's John. Each episode I talk to friends and colleagues and get them to explain their work in a way we can all understand. This episode, my guest is someone with a wealth of experience. He tells us about his work on an important site in central Iraq called Tel Harmal. His work sheds light on a fascinating period of history about 4,000 years ago. In around 2000 BC, the empire that had brought most of Iraq into a single unit and dominated the surrounding regions collapsed. Out of the ashes, several smaller kingdoms emerged. In the 1700s BC, a new power arose, Babylon. A remarkable statesman called Hammurabi, the king famous for his law code, founded a new empire and ushered in what we call the Old Babylonian period. We sometimes also use this term to refer to the whole period, from the fall of that first empire to the fall of the new one. During the couple of hundred years in between these great empires, rival kingdoms battled for dominance. Two of the fiercest rivals were the cities of Isin and Larsa in southern Iraq. Specialists name this period after them, the Isin-Larsa period. Meanwhile, further north, a powerful kingdom based at the city of Eshnunna exerted political and cultural influence across the region. Tel Harmal was a key centre in this kingdom of Eshnunna. We know far less about Eshnunna than we do about the southern kingdoms, making Tel Harmal particularly important. So get yourself a cup of tea, make yourself comfortable, and let's meet today's guest. Hello, and welcome to Thin End of the Wedge. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hello. I want to thank you, John, to give me the opportunity to talk about one of the important sites from the Old Babylonian period. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's good to have you on. Could you tell us, please, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Laith Majid Hussain. I have PhD in archaeology and cuneiform writings, and I am now assistant professor in the University of Baghdad.
The site you've been working on is really interesting and important. Outside Iraq, though, I think many people may not have heard of it. Could you introduce us to Tel Harmal, please? Where is it? How big is it? When was it excavated?
Tel Harmal is one of the most interesting sites in the Diyala region. It's a small size site, circa 1.8 hectares and rising 4 meters above the plain. And it's nowadays situated in the Baghdad suburb, Baghdad al-Jadida. Tel Harmal seems to have fortified military stronghold and an administrative center. Excavations were started by the Iraqis in 1945 and lasted until 1963. The first excavation were led by Taha Bakr and Muhammad Ali Mustafa, under the guidance, of course, of a satellite. In just 2 seasons, they unearthed earlier already above half of the settlements and found about 1,300 tablets. The main result of this former excavation was nearly completed clearing out the building levels 2 and 3 of the settlement of Isin-Larsa period. Many private houses, 8 temples, and a big public administration building were identified. The remains of upper level 2 shows traces of a fire and destruction, probably dating back to the wars between the Ishnunna kingdom, the Elamite rulers, and King Hammurabi of Babylon. One of the great excavators was Taha Bakr. Taha Bakr, born in 1912 in Babylon, was an Iraqi archaeologist, author, cuneiformist, linguist, historian, and former curator of the National Museum of Iraq. He considered one of Iraq's most eminent archaeologists. Among the works he is remembered for are his Akkadian to Arabic translation of Epic of Gilgamesh, the Akkadian law code. He discovered it, of course, and the excavation of ancient Babylonian and Sumerian sites. About the ancient name of Tel Harmal, it was Shadupum. Many of the texts in Tel Harmal give us the information about the name. They said Bil Gasher, it's the local god of Shadupum, Lugal Shadupuum, Shadupiim.
That is Lord of Shadupum, right?
Yes. But we don't have any explanation for the meaning of the name till today. Someone said it's come from Sumerian Shaduppa, the container of the tablets, but it's not right.
Some truly spectacular finds were discovered there, weren't they?
Yeah, we discovered 2 terracotta lines, very famous terracotta lines. We find it at the entrance of the main temple. At the beginning, they said it was the Nisaba and Khaya temple, but it's not that, because, of course, they found the lexical tablets, and at the colophon, everything is written there, Khaya and Nisaba, or Nisaba and Khaya.
These colophons are short scribal notes made at the end of text sometimes, and it's not unusual for scribes of this period to invoke Nisaba, the goddess of writing, and Haya's her husband.
Yes. And the Taha Bakr said, okay, this is the temple of Khaya and Nisaba. No, it's not the temple of Khaya and Nisaba. It's the temple of Belgasher, the local god of Shadupum. And we have many gods there because we have many temples there, like Shamash, like Arkhanitum. And they said the main temple of it was the Belgasher temple. And of course, the lines at the entrance, we find the 2 lines, the entrance of the temple. And inside the temple, we find 2 lines too, as puja for the temple. And unfortunately, it's in the war, it was in the museum, and they destroyed the 2 lines there, unfortunately.
Do I remember correctly that the conservators were working to restore those lions?
Yes, they have, or they're able to have the reconstruction of them, and I think it's restored now.
That's good news. You've been working particularly with the texts from this site. Roughly how many texts were found, and what kind of texts are they?
Circa 3,000 tablets of all types have been found in Tel Harmal. The sheer majority of the texts remain unpublished or were studied in unpublished theses by Iraqi scholars, and among them are 9 MA and PhD dissertation and theses. Till today, the published texts are, we have 105 letters, 345 legal and administrative texts, 2 tablets of law of Ashnunna, 2 date lists, and 23 literary texts, 2 of Gilgamesh epic, and 2 of the geographical lists, and 6 of lexical lists, and 29 mathematical texts, and 107 round school texts. In my PhD, I have the main building, administrative building, the Sarai. I studied all the texts there, and I make a new edition of all the studied texts from Tel Harmal, and I make a catalog of them. Of course, many years I spent in this catalog. And I hope in the future all of the texts will be published, because I give now my student, as I said, till now we have 600, maybe more. It's published, but the rest of them, it's not published. Therefore, I give my students now for PhD and MA the tablets from Tel Harmal, and they study it and will be published. I hope soon as possible. I hope in the future it will be published in many of the books. Of course, many of the scholars, they don't have copies or examples from these theses, but we hope in the future it will be published as books.
That sounds excellent. How long do you think it will take before all of the Tel Harmal texts are published like this?
It will, I think, take many years, because, it is a long process. But I hope soon it will be finished, because I make, or it will be published in the future in Germany, a catalog of all the cuneiform tablets, 3,000 cuneiform tablets, all information of each tablet. I spent many years to collect the information from the administrative books and the journals, excavation journals in Arabic, and untranslate it in English and in German language. And I gathered every information about each tablet, and it will be published soon. It will be at the end of this year, it will be published. This catalog and my PhD about Tel Harmal text from the Sarai administrative building and about archaeological finds, and it will be published too, and we hope will be another books from the Syria. We will make a new Syria called Harmal 1 and 2 and 3, and will be considered about all the material from Tel Harmal.
That will be a fantastic resource. You mentioned it will be available in German. Will it also be available in Arabic?
Unfortunately not. It will be, I hope, I want that, but it will be more work. It will be in German, of course, language, but I hope it will be in Arabic, because, I want to make a huge book in the future, of course, when we have time for it. I hope it will be better when we gather all the text and we make a new edition of these texts, because most of them, it was studied in the old times. They don't have more references there and books. One of the most famous articles from Goethe, 1958, and he made a very interesting publication of 50 letters from Tel Harmal. And we need to rewrite this text, and we make a huge volume catalog from all the text from Tel Harmal with their context. It will be a very, I think, nice and useful work.
In the next section, Dr. Laith mentions several texts that are well known to specialists. Among these are something called lexical texts. They were scribal training tools listing countless words for different kinds of animals, objects, people and places. If you think of them as ancient dictionaries, you won't be far wrong. He also mentions the laws of Eshnunna. These are like Hammurabi's famous laws, but even older. We know them through copies found at Tel Harmal. From these excavations, is it possible to use the archaeological context to understand better the nature or the use of these texts?
I think so, because we have many examples there, like the lexical lists, and where you find it, and the round of cool tablets, where you find it, you said, okay, maybe it will be a small school here, or something like a small educational institute here, because we find many of the lexical tablets there. And I will have a project in Germany, in Jena, and I will publish more than 45 lexical tablets from Tel Harmal. They don't publish it till now. It's a new one, with the new readings, of course, and I hope it will be soon published. What we found in the temple, what we found in the houses, you can see, or we can say, okay, it's belong to the educational issue or not. One of the important things we find in a house, Tonbuli.
These are small labels made out of clay.
Yes. Many of them speak about brick production. And it was difficult to understand in the police, but I published it in one of the articles in Cascal in Italy. It's talk about the production of the bricks or the transport of the bricks from ore to sites.
What are these bricks being used for?
I think I tried to make a connection between the building of the wall, the huge wall of Tel Harmal, because it's surrounded with a wall there. And I make a connection with this many quantity of the bricks they brought to the city. And I said in this article, maybe it was to use for the building of this wall.
How many bricks are in a wall like that?
I think many scientists, they tried to make suggestions about this one, but it's very complicated and I think it's difficult. But I think they say it in one or two articles, they talk about it. But it's not easy to make a suggestion about this issue in Tal Harmal. Maybe someone will come after me and he make this.
Yeah, but it's a lot, isn't it?
Yes. It is. It's a lot. It's a lot.
We need a student to go and count the bricks in a certain stretch of wall.
Yes, it will be very, very difficult for them.
Can you give us a flavor then of some of the other texts? What kind of things do these documents say? What language are they written in?
Of course, the language of the lexical lists, for example, is Sumerian, as we see it or we have it from Nippur. Some of the mathematical problems deal with the abstract matters such as triangles and rectangles with no reference, of course, to daily life. On the contrary, the letters, legal and administrative texts were the mirror of the daily life. It's deal with the economy and private issue, and written, of course, were written in Akkadian language, like the transportation of load of bricks, the size of vessels, the number of men need to build a wall, and the questions of oil and lard. Of course, there was a letter, a very interesting letter, talk about someone need workers to come to him, to Shadupum, to make bricks. Of course, it's a very interesting thing. We can make a connection with this, but I don't think so. It will be helpful for us because the bricks, it's come outside. On the bodies, it comes from outside, from Tal Harmal. But the majority of the language, of course, the majority of the language of this Akkadian, of course, we have the law of Ashnunna. It's written in Akkadian. We have the lexical list, the most of them in Sumerian. And many of the administrative contracts and recipes are in a mix from Sumerian and Akkadian.
What do the Tal Harmal texts tell us about life in ancient Iraq?
By examining the administrative archives from Tal Harmal and specifically the agricultural administration, we were able to form an image of the society of that period, as it was dominated by agricultural and co-ops, in addition of grain, in addition to commercial business, as well as the large number of school and lexical texts indicating the existence of many schools of education, in addition to being the administrative center of the Ashnunna kingdom. As they said from the beginning, Tal Harmal was the administrative center of the kingdom of Ashnunna. It's very important. It was very important for Ashnunna because of the letters there. The mayor of Tal Harmal speak directly to, and the letters speak directly to the king of Ashnunna, and the king of Ashnunna sent letters to him. And it was a very agricultural society. It's talk about grains and grains delivery there. And of course, we have many of the merchants there. And as I said, through the many of the school tablets there, we thought, some of them said it's the first college in the world. Of course not. It is not. There's no colleges there. No. Many of them, it's not published, you know. We have more than 2,000. Of course, many of them, as I said, many of them are bricks. And I see hundreds of the tablets. You can read it, of course. But we try our best job.
Yeah, sometimes it can be really difficult to read these fragmentary, sometimes eroded tablets, can't it? I appreciate the difficulties you're facing there. Now, the kingdom of Ashnunna, it's an important kingdom, but it's perhaps one that many people won't know very much about.
Yes, it's very important. At the Diyala region, of course, we don't know many information about that. You know, the American excavated last century in Talasmar and many of the ancient sites there, and they discovered magnificent finds there and artifacts. and many of the very good tablets, letters from Tal Asmar. And in the Yala region, we have hundreds of the uncovered sites, but till now, unfortunately, we don't know more information about them. But it was a very, very, very important time and kingdom, because it sometimes Elia cooperate with the Elam.
These are the eastern neighbours in what is nowadays Iran.
Yes, yes. And King Hammurabi, he was the reason for the destruction or the end of the Ashuna kingdom. And we have many of the very important kings there, Adad, and for many of the local rulers like Hamid Asho and Abu Shu.
You explained earlier about your plans for the publication of the text from the earlier excavations. There are still a lot of gaps in our knowledge of the history of this period. Do you have any plans for new excavations to find new material to fill those gaps?
About the new excavation, you ask, we make, as I was in Germany for my PhD, we make 2 excavation campaigns at 1997 and 1998 as a joint archaeological project between Baghdad University and the German Archaeological Institute. Of course, it's supported from the director of the Department of Antiquities and Heritage. We examined the site in the western corner of the city. We make 2 soundings of both sides of the city wall and the upper building levels from the second millennium. Of course, it was found there. Tried during the excavation tried to find out about the situation in the eastern part of the city. At the same period, of course, the city shows a great differences of settlement between the level 2 and 3 and level 4. The most important buildings of the site, of course, the city wall was its gates, the administration building, the main temple, and the new excavation one, and maybe also the other temples which were founded during the last occupation phase of the Isa Larsa period. We want to prove something, from the old time, from the excavation of Taha Bakr. It's not all the reports is published. It's very difficult to have the excavation reports from the old time. I tried to gather everything from the museum, and it was in Arabic, of course, with the notice of everything, and I gather it and then translate every information from that old time to English and then to German, because many of the plans there, we have one plan, we don't find the number of the rooms there. And it's very difficult, when you read this tablet, it was found in room 100. Well, you see the map and you don't find the room 100. Where is it? And there is no description for this room. And it is very, very difficult for us at the beginning to find where is this room. But many years, of course, of work with Peter Miklos in Germany, in Heidelberg, we gathered, as I said, I gathered everything, all the reports, not published reports, of course, unpublished reports. And we try to make something real. And after years of work, we think we have something new about the rooms and about the houses, and we find the archives there. And as I said, it will be published soon as a book about the archaeology and the finds from Tal Harmal. I hope so.
That would be a tremendous work, yeah. That would be incredibly useful.
Till now, the actual publication of the text from Tal Harmal was, I said, it's slow. Less than 623 texts were till now it's published. The most important publication of this number was from Goetze, the 50 letters published by Goetze in 1958 about, there is no information about 115 illegal excavation. It was their illegal excavation at 1931 in Tal Harmal, and they sent this text to Yale and we find it there. And it was published by Alexander and Simons. And the young Alice has published a few tablets from Tal Harmal, of course, the student from Goethe. And then the Iraqis, Van Dyck was there and published some of them, and Al-Fuadi published the round school tablets, and Suleiman has in his PhD many of the tablets there, publish it. And of course the Iraqis like Khalid Al-Azami and Rida Al-Hashimi, Abdul Karim Abdullah, Amir Suleiman, Basim Jalil, Ahmed Majid, Minshid Mutlaq, Saad Salman, and Ahmed Kamil. All of them at the last time of the last century have texts from Tal Harmal, and they published many of them, of these texts. Well, as I said, it's not easy, of course. Many of the tablets, you ask in the museum, I need these numbers, these tablets, they search it and they don't find it. I don't know. Where are they? Because of many of the, of course, wars there, and many of the closing there. Many of the tablets are not in their shelves there. It's not easy to have them, but we try our best. And it's very interesting. Through the tablets, we find many private archives, and for many important rulers there, like Hamid Ashur, as I said, and Abu Shur. And we hope this is the first step, I think. We give our students now the text. I have 2 students now. They published their PhD and MA about the Tal Harmal texts, because I give them a room or a house with the tablets there, which we find, and they make their PhD and MA. And I hope in the future it will be an end of the publication of all the texts or the tablets from Tal Harmal.
Thank you very much, Laith. I really appreciate your time. You're doing incredible work. It's such a service to the field. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
And thank you for listening to Thin End of the Wedge. If you enjoy what we do, please consider supporting us via Patreon. That's patreon.com/wedgepod. Even a couple of pounds a month helps keep the podcast going and brings us closer to the point where we can make proper translations into Middle Eastern languages. You can also support us in other ways. Simply subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Recommend us to your friends. Follow us on Twitter @wedge_pod. If you want the latest podcast news, you can sign up for our newsletter. You can find all the links in the show notes and on our website at wedgepod.org. wedgepod.org. Thanks, and I hope you'll join us next time.